Good evening, 105th District. Just wanted to give you guys an update from here at the Capitol and kind of give a little bit of an in-depth look at the budget this year. We're in the middle of budget week, and I'm actually between voting. We were on the House floor just a few minutes ago voting on a number of bills, including some of the code bills, and we're heading back this evening. And we were here till a little past 10 last night working on this, and I will stay as long as it takes tonight and the rest of this week because we have to get this budget done by the end of the week, and we're going to be working as long as it takes to get a good series of code bills and all the different bills around the budget, get them passed and make sure that we're being good stewards of taxpayer dollars. The budget is very serious to me because this is one of our major obligations as legislators, is to responsibly fund the government. And this is not our money we're spending. This money belongs to you as taxpayers. And so it's a very serious obligation to appropriate the dollars that actually belongs to the people of Pennsylvania and the people of the 105th District. So I'm very thrilled and proud to let you know that we did vote on and pass the first major bill, which is the budget bill. And it does not raise any taxes. I came in here very unwilling to support in any way a bill that would raise taxes. There was a movement afoot in Pennsylvania a few years ago to dramatically raise the personal income tax and the sales tax. Many of you may have remembered back in 2015, late 2015, and I don't think they got the budget done until December that year because of this huge debate over taxes. And so this was kind of something that I wanted to fight against coming in here. And I'm proud to say that along with many members of the Republican caucus in the House of Representatives, we've held the line and have insisted on a responsible budget that is balanced, fully funds the government, and does not raise taxes by a dime. So I'm very thrilled to report back to you that we have passed the first big budget bill without raising taxes. This bill is about $33.997 billion spending plan. It's about $150 million less than what the governor proposed in February. We felt that his level of spending that he was advocating for was simply too much. And so we chose to be responsible and rein that number in by about $150 million. This does increase spending by just 1.8% over what was spent last year, which is in line with the rate of inflation, which I'm glad to see that it wasn't beyond that. As many of you remember, we moved the Taxpayer Protection Act out of committee very recently, and that requires that we don't dramatically increase spending without a reason, and we keep it in line with the rate of inflation and population growth. And so this budget stays on track with that for the most part. It does. There's some supplemental spending that I wasn't 100% happy with. We'll get into that in a little bit. But the reality is this is a responsible budget. It invests $250 million into the rainy day fund to ensure that the Commonwealth can weather any future economic downturns. And the reason this is so important is because for years, Republicans in the House have held the line on taxes. When everybody else wanted to raise our taxes, Republicans in the House said, absolutely not. We're not going to raise taxes. We're going to let the economy thrive. And when that happened, we got a tax surplus because when the economy rises, more tax revenues come in without raising tax rates. That's exactly what happened. And so we had about an $813 million surplus. That was just through the month of May. We haven't seen June's numbers yet. But we were able to take 250, actually almost 300 million, and put it into the rainy day fund. So to me, that was very important and signals kind of a trend of responsibility moving forward. That is one of the reasons I came here in the first place. Let's talk education. One thing I was happy to see with this surplus, we were able to invest an additional $432 million in pre-K through 12 education, including $160 million more in basic education funding, $50 million more for special education funding. This benefits students and taxpayers in both Central Dauphin and the Lower Dauphin school districts, both within the 105th District, and of course one of the schools in Lower Dauphin as well as Central Dauphin. So this benefits both schools. Both schools will see an increase in funding, which I was thrilled to see. And then it also increases career and technical education funding by $10 million to a total of more than $1 billion. And this is going to help schools like Dauphin County Tech, who are training students for jobs for today and tomorrow. This is very good because, as you know, a huge priority for me is workforce development. And I'm extremely happy to see those funds will go to tech schools and will benefit Dauphin County Tech. The budget also invests $60 million more in school safety and security grants, which is very good to make sure our schools are safe It provides 2% funding increases across the board for higher education institutions such as community colleges, the state system of higher education schools, and state-related universities such as Pitt, Penn State, Temple, and Lincoln. And the reason this is important is because there's so many students in the 105th that go to these schools, and we really needed to provide this funding to keep tuition rates down and to make sure that going to college remains affordable for these families within the 105th district and across the state. So public safety, I wanted to touch on this a little bit because the budget does not include a per capita fee on municipalities that rely solely on Pennsylvania State Police protection for local law enforcement services. If you all remember back in February, Governor Wolf called for this fee that would have been a costly mandate for municipalities like West Hanover and South Hanover townships. I heard from a number of you that you were opposed to this, and that is something I carried with me as we crafted this budget. And so we do not have that fee. We were able to get the money to properly fund the Pennsylvania State Police without putting this unfunded mandate on municipalities and forcing individuals in rural areas to pay this fee. So this is very good for the state. The funding for the state police, by the way, also includes funding for 3 new cadet classes to boost public safety. We know that recruitment has been tough for the PSP, and so this is very good to help them recruit and fund classes for new cadets to keep our entire state safe. So moving forward, the House will continue to work with the Senate on a series of budget reforms. As I believe we can improve the process, we need to have more safeguards in place to protect against excessive spending. So I've talked a lot about the things I like about this budget. There's something I didn't like. I felt like it did spend a little bit too much, and I feel like, and the reason I say that is because there was supplemental spending. The governor overspent, and then we have to go back and figure out how much of that spending was actually okay, because there are federal mandates that come down. There are things that come down that there's no option. The administration has to spend the money. But I think when you go beyond that, there should be accountability. And so I personally had conversations with House leadership to say that moving forward, we need to implement long-term meaningful spending reforms, budget reforms, so that moving forward into next year when we budget, there has to be accountability. When there are supplemental appropriations, when there's supplemental spending, we've got to, as a legislature, be able to hold the administration accountable and make sure that spending was actually required, and in some way make sure that they had a permission from the legislature to spend those funds. So we will be working on those things to make sure that we basically safeguard the budget process and protect your tax dollars. So that's something a number of us are going to be working on moving forward. So that's those are some things we're working on right now. If you're wondering, well, why are we still working on the budget if we pass the budget? Good question. The budget is the broad bill that authorizes us to spend a certain amount of money, and then we have to go through the code bills, which basically tells the government exactly where those dollars can be spent. So we're working through the code bills now, and we've passed 2 of them, and we will continue poring over those, looking through those, making sure the numbers are good, voting on those as we move forward for the rest of this week. So a couple questions from you guys. Fred asked a good question. He says, is there anything in the budget that provides make-up payments for the underfunded employer's share of the retirement system? Fred, good question. So what many of you know, after years of underfunding by the Rendell administration, we are, and you'll be happy to hear this, Fred, we are actually again making the actuarially required contribution as part of this budget. So making that payment is an important step toward right-sizing our pension systems, which, by the way, broadly remain unfunded. So we are now making our actuarially required contribution, Fred. So Jeff asked, is there anything about the royalty money from Tioga County gas wells helping out Tioga County residents? Jeff, as you may know, I represent 3 municipalities in Dauphin County, so that question may be better directed to the representative in Tioga. Happens to be a friend of mine. Clint Owlett is his name. He's the rep. If you're out in Tioga, likelihood is Clint Owlett is your state rep. But I can tell you that the Public Utility Commission today released information on this year's impact fee distributions of $3.4 million to Tioga County itself, and an additional $5 million to individual municipalities. So this funding is intended to address impacts of natural gas drilling, including roadways and infrastructure, housing, and more. So Matt, you asked, how about pressure to lower the taxes on gas and everything else the governor has taxed into oblivion? you do bring up a good point. We have the highest, I think you're talking about the gasoline tax. We have the highest gasoline tax in the country, which greatly troubles me because you'd think that would translate to like the best roads in the country, and it does not. It translates to actually some of the worst roads I've seen in the tri-state area. But we have continued to push back against the governor's calls for higher taxes and higher spending. This year it was a severance tax on natural gas, an issue he's been pushing in for each year of his administration. As I've said, we've pushed back, even before I got here, House Republicans pushed back on raises to income taxes, raises to sales taxes. And the reality is this year we pushed hard and said, no, we're going to spend responsibly, $150 million under what he was proposing, and we were going to do it without a tax hike. And so now we can move forward for additional reforms, and I think taking a look at the gasoline tax is probably a very good idea. So guys, that pretty much wraps up my budget update. I wanted to just give you just an overview, let you know what we're working on still at the Capitol. We're going to get it done. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me here on Facebook or call my office either here in the Capitol or over on Linglestown Road. And I look forward to being back in the district after we're done this week. And we have a lot of cool events over the summer and into the fall that I look forward to telling you about. So thanks so much. It's a privilege to represent you, and we will talk soon. Thanks.